What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to the DFS Picks and Prediction Show. We go live every Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, where me, Luke, Weezy, and AJ all go through this upcoming card from a DFS perspective. We give our picks along the way. And as always, we're going to go through our fights to target, fight to fade, fighter to fade, favorite dog, favorite GPP play, favorite cash play, favorite value play, favorite dart throw. Give any or answer any questions you guys have. We'll talk about who won the contest between us four last week and then give our lineups for this week as well. So I am here as always with Weezy. How are you doing, Weezy? Looking forward to this card?
I am, man. I got a lot of action on this card already. I think there's some really live underdogs on this card, and the most expensive fighter is only 9,300 this week. So it seems like there's a lot of possible combinations that we can get under that salary cap. And I really like this card. I think there's a lot of different options for people to be exposed to this week. I can't wait to chop it up with you guys, see what you guys are thinking.
For sure. Luke, you looking forward to this card? Anything sticking out to you early?
Yeah, it should be a fun one. I think there's a lot of potential volatility just because I think there's a lot of question marks on a lot of these matchups, like just different certain components of it. I don't necessarily have the greatest read on, so that should also make it interesting from a DFS perspective.
Yes, sir. And then AJ as well. AJ showing up just in time. What is up, AJ?
Yeah, thanks for waiting for me, guys. For those that don't know, I went to go get my flu shot. I was pressed for time, but had a buzzer beater there. Yeah, looking forward to this card. I'm really hungry to get back into the win column. I was very confident in my bets, my predictions last card, and it just totally went down south. So yeah, feel confident as well. I'm not going to necessarily let it discourage me, but it does make me more hungry in terms of wanting to get a W back.
For sure. Hopefully we all can get a W this weekend. Before we get into it, if you all can please smash the like button. Also subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Again, we go live every Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. But I say we get into it. And as always, we will start with our fight to target. So we'll start with you, Weezy. Weezy, what is your fight to target for UFC Vegas 43?
I got a feeling it's going to be all four of us targeting this fight, but I'm going to just say McKinney's I am. I mean, come on, dude. This is ridiculous. This guy, McKinney, he fights like he's triple parked. He's usually in the cage for about 2.5 minutes, and it's either him getting slept or his opponent's getting slept. 100% finish rate in his wins, 100% finish rate in his losses. Both of these guys hit so hard. For us, IM's striking is very underrated. We haven't had a chance to see it because the guy has been facing over 10 takedown attempts per fight against him. So to see two strikers that hit as hard as both of these guys do, I got to believe that this fight is definitely going to finish inside the distance, and whoever wins it is going to be optimal.
Yep, Weezy, I agree with you. That's what I put as well. McKinney, Zion. It is a minus 190 fight. Is a good decision on Bet Online. I think I saw like minus 245 on a book as well. So yeah, I think that is the best inside the distance line on the entire slate. You brought up the points I was going to bring up. McKinney, he's been to the third round once. He's been to the second round twice. He's never been over the 2.5 round mark. I think McKinney's very live for an early finish, but if he does not get him out of there early, I can see a Zion late finish there. So yeah, I think I'm going to cover both sides here in this fight. I am more on the McKinney side myself, but I don't think Zion's a terrible play as well. So yeah, this is my favorite fight to target. How about you, Luke? What are you looking for this fight?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go Yanez Grant here. Has the second best ITD line on the slate, roughly 65% implied to finish. Both guys aren't exactly defensive striking savants by any means and have shown high finishing potential in the past. 79% finish rate for Yanez and 85% finish rate for Grant. I guess the concern here is it turns into maybe like a 3-roundish warish type scenario where nobody goes out, because it does need to be noted that neither guy has been knocked out before, but I think we're going to see some bigger exchanges in this fight. I also think that Adrian Yanez is the biggest pure power puncher that we've seen Davey Grant fight to date. And we have seen Davey Grant dropped in the first round in both the Martin Day and Jonathan Martinez fights. So I don't think his durability, despite never being KO'd, is exactly picture perfect 100%. And I think it's actually a pretty bad style matchup for him. But nonetheless, Yanez has his own defensive flaws. I think he's probably live to get knocked out one of these days. I don't know if this is the time necessarily, but Davey Grant does throw a lot of strikes. He's shown some power components in recent years too. So it's one I definitely want to target. And I definitely don't want to go like too overboard on it, because like I said, there could be like a 3-round warish trap here. But I think we're going to see a lot of finishing potential and bigger exchanges.
I like it. I'm with you there. And then AJ, how about you? What fight are you targeting for this week?
Yeah, I'm going to pivot over to the Levy and Garcia option. I think the choices that you guys mentioned are very compelling. But I like this fight for a variety of reasons. You got Garcia at 7,700, but he's a favorite on a lot of books. That's pure value in itself. And then on the flip side, you got Levy at 85, who's negative odds value, which, as we've seen time and time again, take away from some ownership. But when I look at this fight playing out, both these guys want the fight to go to the ground. And we see in this new DraftKings scoring system with the control time, the non-significant strikes, those add up. Every one of Levy's fights I've seen hits the ground, a very aggressive grappler. Haven't really seen Garcia tested a whole lot in that regard, but we have seen him taken down on the regionals. Both guys have shown questionable cardio, not the best striking, but I think that this fight probably hits the ground for a projected low ownership, reasonably priced. I am interested in this one as well as the ones you guys mentioned.
Sounds good. So 3 different ones there for you guys. I do want to shout out the chat before we continue. Jack Attack, salute, gentlemen. What is up, Jack Attack? How you doing? Nathan saying fight doesn't go to decision is a bet right there. I do agree with that. Nathan talking about the McKinney fight, I believe, saying hear that. Jack saying interesting seeing the line movement on Garcia Levy. Yeah, very interesting. Looks like some people are going back to the Garcia route this week. Yeah, he's now minus 130. So good point there, AJ. So let's keep moving on. Now let's go to our fight to fade. We'll start with you. Luke, what is your fight to fade for this week?
I guess off the top on this type of slate, I don't think there's a fight I would feel great about fading in like large field builds personally. But if I had to make a selection, I'm actually going to pivot here. I don't know if this is getting different at all, but I'm actually going to go Pinheiro and Hughes, kind of our bumper plates of the card per se, with the Pinheiro being up at the top and Hughes at the bottom. My main reasoning is that, Pinheiro's been running girls on the regional scene, but we often see regional finishers, not necessarily translate to the UFC. You can make the argument, that Sam Hughes might not be a UFC caliber fighter, and there might definitely be some merit there. But at least in Sam Hughes' defense, she's been fighting really tough competition, has had some bad style matchups, even going back to her regional fight with Vanessa Demopoulos, who's a pretty higher level regional fighter. She fought Lupita Godinez twice back as an amateur. So I do think the girl's tough. I just think the overwhelming finish potential in this fight does lie with Pinheiro, but as the highest price fighter on the slate, I think there's the 4 options that are below her can score at least as well, if not as high as she can, assuming she doesn't finish as well. So it's more so of me actually pivoting from like the fight doesn't go around that evens to just like the Pinheiro ITD line, which is around 60%. I'm sorry, 40%, which on this slate would actually put the fight to finish in general right in the bottom tier with the other 2 chick fights. That's not to say that Pinheiro can't score well in a decision, because she absolutely can. It probably comes from a lot of takedowns, but I think you can make the same argument for Taila Santos, who is $100 cheaper than her. There's a lot more just general finish equity in a lot of the other fights, even below or even in the mid-range, even at the bottom. So I think it's just a way to be a bit different this week.
Yeah, sounds good. I thought this week it was pretty hard to find a fight to like outright fade. Weezy, do you have one that you're going to fade this week?
Sorry, my mouse sucks. Yeah, and like Luke, I'm not going to fade any fight this week, especially if I'm multi-entering. I mean, there's really no good choices of fights to fade. The one that I was going to say though is Kang against Yahya. But it's the hardest question to answer on this particular show, because there are so many fights that are compelling. There are so many underdogs that are compelling, and then there's some very strange salaries too. But I feel like there's so much value on this card that you can find a mid-range fight to fade, and this is definitely one of them. 2 grapplers here who try to pretty much exclusively finish their fights with grappling. However, sometimes we see fights like this turning into striking battles, and something tells me if this does turn into a striking match, it'll be the lowest scoring fight on the card. It's just a really hard one to pick. Neither one of these guys really has a signature win. I mean, we're talking about 18 combined wins between these 2 guys, and not one of them has beat somebody with a winning record. They're both pretty much finishing their fights exclusively by submission, not by knockout. But, they're both really high-level grapplers, so maybe they'll try to get the best of each other in the striking. It's a really hard fight for me to figure out, so I'm just staying away from it as a whole.
Yep, I put that as well, Easy. How I kind of see the fight playing out is Kang, keeping on the feet, stuffing the takedowns of Rani Yahya, outpointing him for 3 rounds, maybe mixing in takedowns. Maybe Rani Yahya gets him out and gets him down here or there. I think if it does score well, it probably had to be like a Rani Yahya early sub. But yeah, like you mentioned, Kong's a great grappler in his own right. Hasn't been submitted for like over 10 years at this point. So yeah, I'm not going to completely fade it, but that's the one. If I had to pick one, I can very well see it, like you said, being a striking fight for 3 rounds and not scoring too well. AJ, how about you? What is your fight to fade?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Godinez versus Lookboonmee, one of the fights more likely to go the distance. Godinez has one of the worst finish props outside of all the favorites. That's with the caveat of we don't have one for Kang, as you guys brought up, Kang. But there's just a lot of more compelling options, in my opinion. The case for playing Godinez is because we think she could have success grappling against Lookboonmee. We've seen that be a hole in her game. That's where I see most of the upside coming with this fight, though. I don't see a finish either way. Both women are good strikers, tough, defensively sound. And I don't really necessarily trust Godinez to go out there and like dominate Lookboonmee, even though you could exploit her in that area, the striker that is. So, and if Lookboonmee wins, I think it's going to be like a striking based decision. Don't really see a finish. There's just other underdogs I think have more upside in win scenarios. Some even that have better chances to win. We got some odds value plays here. So yeah, for me, it's pretty much Godinez or pass, but I lean to be underweight on this fight.
Sounds good to me. Do want to shout some people out in the chat. Let's see what we got here. We have Sosa in the chat. What is up, Sosa? Jeremiah saying these parlays are kicking my ass. Help me out. Maybe we can help you out at the end of the stream there. Rick saying, what's up, crew? What is up, Rick? MMA breakdowns. Let's get it. I agree. But we'll keep moving on. We'll go to the fighter to fade. We'll start with Weezy. Weezy, what is your fighter to fade this week?
All right, I'm going with Joanne Calderwood here. She's got the worst inside the distance line on the entire slate, and she's got the worst first round finish prop on the entire slate. Her opponent's grappling game is just next level right now, and I see it as a terrible spot for JoJo. Let me just kind of break down Santos's grappling numbers here so you guys know what I'm talking about. This is what I talk about when I talk about dominant grappling. Taila Santos has an 86.67% takedown accuracy. She's gotten 13 of her 15 takedown attempts in only 5 fights. And then she's showing 89% takedown defense. So when you're that, efficient, both offensively and defensively in the grappling exchanges, it just means that you get to choose where the fight takes place. And you get to basically put your opponent where they're the least comfortable. The fighter that I see having the easiest time of doing this on this card by an absolute mile is Taila Santos. I'm just so impressed with her grappling efficiency. I'm impressed with her toughness, how hard she hits. And I really think that this is just an awful matchup for Joanne Calderwood. So I am not going to be touching her with a 10-foot pole on this slate.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do think that Santos is going to show up to the octagon with a razor and some shaving cream on Saturday. But for me, I'm actually going to be fading Loma Lookboonmee. AJ brought up a bunch of good points. She has 7,400. If Loma wins, kind of how I see it going is her stuffing takedowns, her keeping it on the feet, and her outpointing Loopy Godinez throughout 3 rounds. The likelihood that she gets a finish is very, very low. And if she does win, I don't see her getting many, if any, takedowns. Just a striking decision and probably not scoring a ton. So yeah, Loma for me as a fade, 7,400. I am more on the Godinez side. AJ, how about you? What is your fighter to fade this week?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Joanne Wood. I think Weezy brought up some really good points there. I think that she will be one of the more sorry, am I not supposed to say Wood? Am I going to get expelled from this podcast if I say Wood instead of Calderwood? I'm just kidding. I think that, it's going to be intriguing. And I said this last week about Alvarez, and that aged horrendously, obviously, but I think she's going to be one of the more popular options just because it's Joanne. She's been there, done that against, the who's who of the division. And she puts up good efforts even in losses on DraftKings. Chikagian, 69 points in a loss. Murphy, 55 points in a loss. So I almost think as though people are going to talk themselves into her as a play because they go, oh, well, it goes the distance. She could score even in a loss. But I agree with Weezy here. I think she's going to end up on her back a lot. Santos is the more physical grappler, the better technical grappler. And I wouldn't even put it past Santos to get a stoppage here. I know that she's been a bit of a decision machine in the UFC, but you see Calderwood, how she defends on the ground. I mean, she doesn't, know how to work back up. She gives up the mount often. She gives up her back. I think that Santos goes out here, gets the thing done in dominant fashion, and then probably just suppresses Joanne's upside I think it's a bad style matchup for her, and I think that as a result, we see her not score that many DraftKings points.
Yep, I totally agree. Luke, how about you? What is your fighter to fade?
So I'm going up in the 8K range. I'm going Levy at 8.5 off the top. I think you're obviously paying up for a guy who's now an underdog, actually a decent amount by about $500 or so. He's got the 12th best inside the distance line or 12th worst, I guess, depending on how you look at it, at 25% implied, which isn't terrible, but isn't good either. Like stylistically, he's a karate based guy, but he hasn't shown any real power components. Historically, I think he's got one knockout back in the amateurs, but that's about it. He's shown some submission potential, but how that translates to Garcia has been taken down a couple of times, but he's pretty difficult to hold down. He's pretty good in the scramble. I think Garcia is going to go forward. He's going to get after him. I think he's the better striker. I think he's the better wrestler in this matchup. I think there's some recency bias from the recent Garcia performances, to be honest. I just haven't really seen many parallels, at least in comparison to a Levy, in the couple guys that Garcia's lost to in hack pressed, a high volume, longer striker, or a Chris Grismacher, a goal forward, pressure based volume striker who can take a ton of damage. I mean, we saw Levy on skates in his last LFA fight too. You know, it kind of played the comeback kid, but guy's still reasonably inexperienced. I kind of think it's just, I don't really understand paying 8.5 for him outside of, okay, Garcia might gas. But even then, the guy still showed a shitload of toughness in those fights to not get finished as well, and was still throwing a ton of strikes, still landed a takedown in the third on Gritzmacher, got like 3 minutes of control time. So kind of a show me spot for the Levy kid. And I sure as hell, I'm not going to be paying 8.5 for him on DK.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Aldo saying Zion is super fadeable. Sosa saying my fighter to fade is Zion. We got a dono in the chat. Shout out to David. What's up, guys? How y'all doing? Good luck this weekend. Good luck to you as well. We got Preston in the chat. Shout out to Preston. Nothing screams UFC Fight Night quite like a Rani Yahya main card fight. Yes, sir. We need that classic face to pain intro for that one. I totally agree. Sosa saying hopefully the finishes roll over this week. I sure hope so as well. But let's keep moving on. We have the favorite dog here. So we'll start with you, Weezy. Weezy, what is your favorite dog this week?
So right now there's a lot of dogs I like on this card. So this was difficult for me to choose, but I'm going to go with Michael Chiesa here. This should be a grappling heavy fight. Absolutely. I mean, all of Michael Chiesa's fights are grappling heavy because he's absolutely terrified to strike with anybody, and he should be at this level. So it's a huge step up in competition, though, for Sean Brady to come up to Michael Chiesa. You look at the names that Chiesa's been fighting here. He's been at the top of the division for a very long time, and his grappling game is absolutely next level, and he absolutely keeps it in the grappling exchanges pretty much for at least 70% of his fights. So, I just think that he could stick to Brady like glue. This is going to be an interesting challenge. We're going to find out how good, Sean Brady's grappling is. We're going to find out how good Chiesa's grappling is at this level, because Brady is just so strong. He's got a next level squeeze when he gets on somebody's neck. So I think this is going to be a really competitive fight here. But Michael Chiesa is 7,300. He's so cheap. I could really see him having success here, really kind of just riding Sean Brady's back for the entirety of this fight and racking up a few takedowns and getting a ton of control time here. But there's a lot of guys that I do like in this 7,000 range. Chiesa is just one of them.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of dogs. Chiesa though, 7,300 is very intriguing. Luke, how about you? Favorite dog?
Yeah, not to kind of reiterate everything I said with my fade, but it's going to actually be Rafa Garcia at 7.7K. Obviously, salary-based value in the sense that he's at the price level and he's now actually a favorite in terms of the odds. He attempts a lot of takedowns historically over a large sample size. We've seen Levy get taken down in pretty much every one of his fights. He has gotten the better of the wrestling and grappling in those fights, but it's against a lower level of competition where I think Garcia is the better wrestler here. As touched on, he's difficult to hold down, so I think he can get the better of the wrestling here. Garcia only has one KO pre-UFC, but like I said, he's aggressive. He hits hard. He's hurt multiple guys. Almost kind of got Gritzmacher out of there in the first. So I think he's got KO potential in the fight. I think he's got wrestling potential in the fight. He's got, I think, 7 or 8 subs on his record, and we've seen Levy passed before. So I think that's a potential path for him at 7.7. Even in a decision, I think he can score pretty well. And I think he's got paths to finish in both realms of this fight. So at 7.7, I think he can easily 10x, probably 11, 12x.
So, yep, we have Garcia, we have Chiesa, and how about you, AJ? What are you looking out for a dog here?
Yeah, can I go with the negative odds value play? One of them, Miesha Tate at 8,300. I think she'll be the less popular of the two fighters in the main event, considering the odds value on Vieira. When I watched Vieira, though, on tape, she's got good takedown defense, but when we've seen her put on her back, she's quite comfortable to just kind of lay there. That give up a lot of top control time. You guys mentioned it a bit with the Yahya fight. Maybe that was Stat Diggers. Maybe it was this podcast. But, that's what I want to target on DraftKings. These fighters that could get in the top position and from there rack up control time, put up a reasonable score. And this is a 5-round fight. Tate is a grappler. I'm not ready to say she's back. She's ready to dethrone Nunes or anything like that. I'm not overreacting to the result by any means. But Vieira does have questionable cardio. This is a 5-round fight. I could see Miesha giving her trouble with the takedowns, with the control time. And for 8,300, she's going to be probably my more heavily exposed fighter of the two in GPPs, though cash games, we'll get to that segment when we get there. But yeah, I like Miesha Tate as an underdog in quotations.
Yep, I'm with you there. For me, I went with Michael Chiesa as well. 7,300. It's very tempting. I watched every single Sean Brady fight I could, and he's never been taken down ever. But I feel like that could change here. Obviously, Chiesa's fought the much better competition. It's not even close. And you're 70,300. If he does win, I can see takedowns. I can see a situation where he's able to take down Brady, control him. I think the striking's competitive. So at 7,300, with that experience, I'm willing to take a shot there at Michael Chiesa. We'll keep moving on, though. We have our favorite GPP play. We'll start with you, Weezy. What are you looking at for a GPP play here?
Yeah, Terrence McKinney at 8,400. I mean, there's just a ton of upside with this guy. I mean, he scored something like over 115 points in like 10 seconds, in his last performance. And then if you look at the career record for this guy, he just gets in and out of there. He's got a ton of power. So, it's definitely a fight to target. He's definitely a fighter to target. McKinney's the kind of guy where you can almost guarantee if the dude wins the fight at 8,400, he's going to be optimal because this guy's never won a fight by decision in his life. So, this is probably my favorite GPP play.
Yep, I'm with you there. Same thing for me. My favorite GPP play is going to be Terrence McKinney. He has some high upside, very high ceiling. Like you said, 100% finish rate. I believe Zym's been finished like 2 times, I think both by submission. So, I like McKinney here. I think if he does win, it's going to be early. I think it's going to score very well. And at 8,400, I'm willing to take a lot of shots on him. How about you, Luke? What is your favorite GPP play?
Yes, I'm going to kind of go on the other side of AJ here, and I'm actually going to go Ketlen at 7.9 for some of the reasons mentioned. Maybe I'm not being sneaky there in terms of the general salary-based value, but she is the main event underdog, at least in terms of DraftKings. She also has the best inside the distance line on the slate of any fighter below the 8K range. I think she's going to have a size advantage in this fight, and I do think she is the better striker of the two. As AJ touched on, there is some concern with her getting stuck on bottom. I definitely concede that, but it was also, against Sarah McMahon, who we know is obviously a very strong wrestler, and then just kind of a funky exchange with Yana Kunitskaya. But at the end of the day, she still stuffs at 92%. And even in regards to Tate, at least in the UFC, if you look at just those metrics and not UFC stats and all of her strike force and all that stuff, in the UFC, she's only landed takedowns at a 25% clip. So I don't think it's as easy to say that Tate, shoots 10,000 takedowns. I think she only lands like 1.4 per 15 minutes. That she just shoots a ton of takedowns. She gets a ton of takedowns here against a girl who's a pretty strong defensive wrestler, I would say. I would also say that actually Vieira has a pretty strong wrestling path in this fight too. Miesha Tate's takedown defense isn't very good. We've seen her drop rounds, drop minutes, and drop fights on bottom before too, coupled with Ketlen Vieira being in control positions 74% of the time that her fights are spent in the grappling in the UFC. But I definitely don't hate any of the Miesha Tate takes at all because I think there's definitely some validity there. I'm just not really willing to kind of jump on the Miesha Tate 2.0 thing. She went out there and butchered a 43-year-old Marion Renault with one foot out the door. I need to see just a little bit more. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to have some Miesha Tate here 100%. But I think Ketlen Vieira's got a lot of upside over a 25-minute fight. People say she might gas. I'm not necessarily sold on that, especially if I think she's going to be able to have some wrestling success in this fight, stuff some takedowns, keep hands in her face. I like her at 7.9.
Yep, I'll definitely be having both sides of that main event. AJ, how about you? Favorite GPP play?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Sean Soriano at 9K. You know, he's got 4 losses in the UFC, and I love that for tournaments because people are going to write him off. People aren't really sure what a win looks like. You know, if you haven't watched tape on him, that is. This guy's a dangerous striker, man. Let me tell you, I had a big bet on Christos Giagos, and he made me sweat every second of that fight. He almost had Giagos out of there. The Sanford MMA fighter who throws very hard, good low kicks. I think he's got a big striking advantage over his opponent here. Who's a crazy hittable. They proved that against Kulabau in that debut. Head completely on the center line. He gassed there. I think Soriano, could have a ton of success with low kicks. I think he probably gets a stoppage. Historically, he is a finisher when he wins, and I don't think he's going to be anywhere near as in danger here as he was against Giagos, Rosa, even some of the guys he was on the regional scene. He did show good get-ups there against Giagos. So a fight I will be exposed to both sides, but my preferred play is going to be Soriano. He is a minus 300 favorite here. I'm looking on DraftKings as a 9K fighter that presents strong win odds. His inside distance line is plus 150, lower owned. Yeah, sign me up.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think if Sean Soriano does win, I think it's a first-round knockout as well. But we'll keep moving on. Our favorite cash play. We'll let you start off, Luke.
Yeah, so despite me actually saying or having this girl in the fade, I think she's a great option for cash, and that's Pinheiro at 9.3. Just based on the fact that Hughes has the worst inside the distance line on the slate. She hasn't been an overt finisher. If it has, it's been over lower level girls. Pinheiro is the better wrestler, is the better grappler in this fight. So I think she has physical advantages, and because of that, I think she's generally safe. I think you can definitely go down to Taila Santos at 9.2. I think that's a solid option here as well, but I do think Pinheiro does have a better chance to finish than Santos does, despite my fade take. But I'd rather play Pinheiro in cash than I would in GPPs.
I like it. For me, I went with Adrian Yanez 9,100. I don't think there's going to be much, takedown upside, control time upside, but I really do feel like he's somewhat safe. Tons of volume from Yanez. I feel like a knockout is very live, like Luke said earlier. We've never seen Grant knocked out, but we have seen him dropped multiple times in multiple fights. So, yeah, I think Yanez has a good chance to knock him out here at 9,100. I do like it quite a bit. Yanez himself has never been knocked out. Has shown to be very durable. Give me Yanez 9,100. He's my favorite cash play there. How about you, AJ? What is your favorite cash play?
Yeah, I'm gonna contradict myself here a little bit, but as I mentioned, I liked Tate in GPPs more. I do like Vieira in cash more. I'm not going to ignore the value here at 7,900, where she's the favorite. She is in a 5-round fight. Luke brought up some good points about Tate. She does stuff takedowns only at 52%. Even going back to that fight against Pennington there, Pennington took her down once on one attempt. She did show some urgency to scramble from bottom position, but Pennington still controlled her for 4 minutes and 30 seconds of that third round. And as we brought up before, I'm not ready to say she's going on a title run. She's Miesha Tate 2.0 just because of one performance. Right. We're not just going to overreact to that sample size. So there is definitely some upside with Vieira. I think it's generally a strong main event to target in general. They're both grappling based fighters. It's a 5-round fight. So yeah, give me action on both sides. But for cash games, my preferred play is Vieira for the value.
Sounds good. Clint, what is up? Clint, somebody explain GPP and cash. Who would like to do that?
Sure, I can, since I threw it out there. So cash games is basically your 50-50, your double ups, head-to-heads. You're more so focused on an optimal lineup. An optimal lineup meaning like you want to have like the highest projection total based on what you're given. You want to factor in opportunity costs, like the best lineup that you could basically make. Whereas, and you're not worried about ownership. GPPs on the flip side is your big, large field tournaments, lots of players in the field. And you're more concerned about ownership there. You want good plays, but you also want good contrarian plays. You want to embrace the variance, so to speak. We're coming off of a slate where everything really blew up there. So factor in the projection, make smart plays, but also be contrarian. And how to do that is pivot over to the lower owned guys that have upside. Those are the type of guys that could go out there and win you a GPP.
Great explanation there. And then Weezy, your favorite cash play?
Okay, so mine's going to be Taila Santos for a lot of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. I think she gets takedowns whenever she wants them. I think once she gets takedowns that she's going to remain on top and just rack up points with control time and non-significant strikes. And I think it's just going to be easy for her. So I kind of think of it as just like a free square. There's a lot of value down in that 7K range. So I feel like I can get, 4 favorites in there and then pivot off to a couple of underdogs and feel really good about getting a high score and placing in a cash lineup. Yeah, Taila Santos just feels like the floor is very, very low for her here. That grappling efficiency is just something I simply can't ignore. So yeah, it's gonna be Santos for me.
I like it. We all gave 4 different ones there. So we'll keep moving on. Our favorite value play. Luke, what is your favorite value play for this week?
Yeah, I'm going Terrence McKinney at 8.4. Pretty reasonably priced, second best ITD line on the slate at roughly 45% implied. The kid's shown power, obviously a crazy early finisher, one of the most likely guys to, hit that 60-second bonus as well, which I think needs to be noted. But even if McKinney doesn't continue like his general KO trend, comes from a really strong wrestling background, USA national juniors, collegiate wrestling background as well, purple belt in jiu-jitsu. We've seen ZM out wrestled pretty much in many capacities of all of his UFC fights. He's been taken down 9 times in 3 UFC fights and controlled for roughly 40% of his overall fight time. So yes, there's some general concern on, McKinney extended his gas tank. He's been such an early finisher, but at the same time, ZM doesn't really push any sort of a striking-based pace at all. He needs a pretty tepid, low-volume, kickboxing-based fight to succeed, assuming it's extended. He obviously doesn't really wrestle much either, so that just gives me generally more optimism for McKinney gas extended. So even, like I said, if that doesn't come to fruition, I think he can take this dude down. I think he can get a lot of control time, non-significant strikes. I think he's a solid value play at 8.4, even if he doesn't finish.
I like it. AJ, how about you? Favorite value play?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the other side of that fight. I do like McKinney as well. I think it's just a really strong fight to target. McKinney, like all of his fights end like in 10 minutes or less usually. And we have seen ZM, even though he's a better technical striker here, we have seen him dinged. We have seen him taken down. So I get the play there. But I do think he's got a distinct technical striking advantage. I'm not a big fan of McKinney's defense on the feet yet. Like, yeah, he's powerful. He's athletic. But he gets hurt a lot. He's been knocked out once officially. It was that flying knee from Woodson. But even before then, Woodson stung him with the jab. I've seen him rocked on the regionals. I just don't like his defensive responsibility on the feet. He also trains at that sick jitsu camp with Chiesa. I don't know. It's like they striking defense isn't exactly the best there. It's not as polished to say like a Sanford MMA or somebody like that, which is where ZM is taking this camp ahead of time. So I think he's got a technical striking advantage. He's also 7,800 and an odds value play. And I think that the market will be lower on him despite the value because he's got dusty game logs. He doesn't score that well when he wins, but I think that the style that McKinney brings will bring a really solid fight out of ZM. Leaves a lot of openings. I could see him getting the knockout there. Sign me up for this fight. This is going to be one of my more highly exposed options.
I'm right there with you. I'm going to be very highly exposed to that fight. For me, for my value play, I went with Rafa Garcia, 7,700. As we see, he's now a minus 130 favorite. So getting some odds value there. And yeah, like Luke said, I like that. It's kind of like a show me spot because we take a look at Natan Levy, and he looks very impressive. But the problem is he hasn't really fought anyone. We see that Garcia's fought the much, much better competition. And although he is 0-2 in the UFC, this is a very winnable fight for him. So I don't mind some Rafa Garcia there, 7,700 as my value play there. Weezy, how about you? What is your favorite value play?
You want value? I'll give you value. How about the cheapest fighter on the card? You can't get any more valuable than that. Sam Page Hughes. Look, you guys, Pinheiro's got a lot of first round finishing upside here. She's very, very dangerous early in fights, but she has 1 round of gas, and I mean 1. If you want to laugh, go back. If you guys have got the tape index and you can watch tape on some of the earlier fights, some of the pre-UFC fights, there are 2 fights with Luana Pinheiro where she absolutely is laughably exhausted after 1 round. In the Luana Pinheiro versus Jessica Rodriguez fight, Pinheiro gets through the first. She wins the first. In the second round, neither fighter has anything left. With a minute and a half left in the round, Pinheiro shoots for a takedown. Her opponent folds like a lawn chair, and she spends the last minute and a half of the round in top position. After the round is over, she lets her opponent up and lays on the canvas, I kid you not, for 20 seconds before going back to her corner. This is after the second round. And then we see it again in the Chris Masfer fight, where it's a slow-paced fight after one round. Luana's unable to get her out of there and then has absolutely nothing left for the last two rounds and loses a split decision to a fighter that's 4-4 and literally had nothing for Pinheiro. So if Pinheiro doesn't get Sam Hughes out of there in the first round, I think she's going to be in a whole heap of trouble. There's a reason why some people think she faked being hurt by that up kick by Randa Marcos. And if you're one of those people who thinks that she faked that, the reason she faked it is because she knows that she doesn't have anything after the first round. It was a very high-paced back and forth. She was using these high-amplitude judo throws that are exhausting to get. If this gets out of the first, Sam Hughes, I think, is going to be live to win the fight. So at that value, you can punt with her and then get all the favorites that you want from there on out. I think it's a lot of value, you guys.
I like it. There you go. We'll move on to our dart throw. Before we do so, if y'all can smash the like button, that'd be much, much appreciated. Also, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. But we have our dart throw here. We'll stick with you, Weezy. Weezy, a dart throw that sticks out to you.
So for me, it's going to be Fares Ziam. Terrence McKinney has been knocked out in all three of his losses. He's very dangerous early in fights, but where Terrence McKinney is most dangerous is where Fares Ziam is at his best and at his most technical. This is raw power against experience and technique, and the experience and technique side of the kickboxing game belongs to Fares Ziam. He's going to have the length. He's going to have the better footwork. He's probably even going to be faster. I think that him training at Sanford, like AJ had, or I don't know if it was AJ or Luke that had mentioned that, but it's a very good thing for him. He's going to get the kind of training he needs. I just think if he survives the first round, that McKinney's going to be in a little bit of trouble here. I'm going to be owning both sides of this fight, damn near 100% exposed to it. But, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Fares Ziam because of the highlight reel knockout that we saw from McKinney last time. But we got to remember that McKinney's been finished in all of his losses. And if he does lose this fight, at 7,800, Ziam is probably optimal because he probably finishes him inside the distance.
Yep, for sure. Luke, how about you?
I'm actually going Tucker Lutz at 7.5K. Got the seventh worst ITD line on the slate, but is only plus 120 to win the fight as a whole. I just think the fight's kind of somewhat binary, where it's kind of Lutz on the feet all day and then Sabatini on the ground all day. In the scenario that Lutz is able to stuff all of the Sabatini takedowns, I feel like he's the better striker in the matchup. I think his output is more consistent. He's got more diversity of strikes. I think he hits reasonably hard. He's got a really nice leg kick. The reality is we just haven't seen a ton of Sabatini at space because he's had so much wrestling and grappling based success in his career. I just can't really unsee him getting picked apart, in the third round by Tristan Connolly, who's not really a good striker by any means. He was also losing, at least the early minutes in the minute and a half or however long, the Jamal Emmers fight happened as well. I think he only landed like one strike. So the sample's small. So there's some general questions here, which is why he's my dart throw. But I think in the scenario that he's able to stay upright, stay off his back, stuff takedowns, we might get some questions answered on Sabatini striking, which I think is still largely a pretty big question mark. So in that capacity, I think he could be live for a knockout, just at least mechanically, and some of the things I've seen from Sabatini defensively in the UFC. Sounds
good to me. AJ, how about you, dart throw?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Kwang Ho King at 8,200. And, Rani Yahya defends takedowns at a rate of 24%. And he doesn't have good cardio. I mean, we've seen it so often. I mean, he has a strong round one, and if he's able to dominate his opponent, he could go on and get top control for rounds 2 and get a third round finish. But anytime he's been faced with resistance, he gasses, and he gasses bad. Going back to the Joe Soto fight, the third round, absorbed 53 total strikes, a takedown on one attempt, got controlled for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That wasn't a one-off, though. The Henrique Barzola fight, he got 10-8'd there in the third round, gassed out, absorbed 85 strikes. controlled for 4 minutes and 46 seconds. Then even going back to Mishinori Tanaka back in 2016 in round 3, Tanaka 74 total strikes, a takedown in 2 minutes and 36 seconds of control time. And so when you look at a guy like Kang, he's very comfortable being in top position. He's a good submission grappler himself. I would trust him to stay out of danger, especially if Yahya is tired. But even if he isn't, I trust Kang enough defensively. And that's, his style is historically like pretty boring, but like it scores well in this new system. If you would have rostered him against Pingwang Liu, he would have had like 60 points or something dusty like that. I remember that because I rostered him, but in the new scoring system, it scores very well. And for 8,200, look, he doesn't have the best finish prop on the card. At least I don't think it will be, but he's a guy that I think could score well in a decision. And for his price point, projected low ownership, it's got me interested.
Sounds good to me. For me, I'm going to get a little crazy here, but Weezy kind of touched on it a little bit. Sam Hughes, she's 6,900. And yeah, the reason being, Weezy brought up a ton of good points, actually. I mean, Pinheiro, if she does not get this fight done in the first round, I'm actually really scared for her. She's not been to the second round in like 7 fights. And yeah, I mean, Hughes, she's a finisher in her own right. I think she has like 4 out of 5 of her wins are inside the distance. I could see Pinheiro like dominating the first round and potentially slowing down as the fight goes on. Maybe Hughes is able to, get her out of there late if Pinheiro really does gas out that bad, or maybe win those next 2 rounds at 6,900. I don't hate that as a dart throw. I think she's going to be very, very low owned. So that is the dart throws there. Now we'll go into our lineups last week. If anybody in the chat has a question, go ahead and type it now, and we'll get into those in a second here. But yeah, type those questions up, and we'll get to you guys. So yeah, last week it was a very, very tricky card. In fourth place was Luke with Anglin, Williams, Holloway, Calvillo, Rothwell, and Moises, scoring 265.47. In the third place was Weezy with Holloway, Casey, Rothwell, and Chukwu, Williams, and Alves, 399.91. And then AJ in second place with Holloway, Rodriguez, Williams, Rothwell, Jung, and Moises with 424.71. And then in first place, me with Holloway, Moises, and Chukwu, Rodriguez, Spencer, and Williams scoring 468.05. Holloway and Spencer combined for like almost 300 points. So that's what did it there. But yeah, tough week. But it feels good to get the win. I think that's 2 weeks in a row now. So hopefully make it 3. But we'll see what we got here for this week. We'll start with Weezy. Weezy, do you ever line up for this week?
I do, man. So I'm going to start with Taila Santos at 9,200, then go down to Adrian Yanez, 9,100, Terrence McKinney, 84, Miesha Tate, 83, Archie Lang, 7,600, and then we're going with Michael Chiesa at 7,300.
Sounds good. How about you, Luke? Do you have a line?
Yeah, I'm going Santos, Yanez, Durden, Vieira, Garcia, Chiesa.
And how about you, AJ?
It's going to be Vieira, Ziam, Garcia, Durden, Brady, and Soriano.
Okay, for me, I'm going to go Pinheiro, Godinez, McKinney, Tate, Vieira, going stack there, and then Chiesa. So let's see what we have in the chat. I know there's a question I missed up top, and if you guys have any questions, you can just type them in now. Where was it? Where was it? I think it was early take for, I think, Riddell or Fiziev. Anybody have an early lean for Fiziev, Riddell?
Not me, man. That's going to be a banger, but that is a high-level striking match. I mean, do you guys have a read on it? I don't.
I don't have a strong one. I think Riddell's going to give him some big issues personally, pre-tape.
Yeah, it's a tough fight to call. Is the line out for that yet?
It probably is.
I think it's Pick'em.
Yeah, Pick'em sounds about right to me. Rip saying Riddell. See what else we got. Justin saying, did Uncle Weezy get his name from cool Vince Vaughn character?
No. So my last name sounds a lot like Louise, and it's Louise from the Jeffersons that was called Weezy. I got that name planted on me back in college a long, long time ago, and it just stuck. So yeah, I'm named after Weezy from the Jeffersons.
There you go. Luke, do you think Brady tries to take down Chiesa?
It's another fight that I'm really curious to see how he approaches it. I think probably the easier path, just granted what Chiesa is going to try to do. He's going to try to shoot takedowns. Brady's going to try to stuff, maybe snatch up something in, that front headlock type of series that we saw from Luque, because I think he has the grappling proficiency to do that. But he's pretty clearly the better striker in this matchup. I more so think the game plan is going to be to sprawl and brawl from Brady. So we'll see. But that's, I guess, how I look at it.
How about you, AJ? Do you think Brady tries to take down Chiesa?
I think he does, actually. Yeah, I think he's just a natural grappler. Like, he just, he's fine. He's content to strike for periods, but Chiesa defends takedowns at a rate of 68%. We really haven't seen him tested there a whole lot. But I do agree with Luke's point. I mean, he's clearly the better striker. So if he wants to just, not even play around on the ground, I wouldn't blame him.
Sounds good. We have Tajik, the GOAT, in the chat. Shout out to Tajik, the GOAT. But we'll give our quick picks now, and then we'll head out of here. So if we could all pull them up, I'll start it up. So for me, up top, I'm going to go with Miesha Tate. I'm going to go with Michael Chiesa. I'm going to go with Adrian Yanez, Taila Santos, Archie Lang. Give me Terrence McKinney. Give me Natan Levy. Give me Kang Kong. Give me Shalilan Nurden Beke. Give me Tucker Lutz. Give me Luana Pinero. And give me Lupe Godinez. Weezy, what are your quick picks for this week?
Okay, I'm going with Miesha Tate. I'm going to go with the Chiesa Brady. I'm going to go with Brady. I'll say Kong, Santos, Yanez, Lutz. I'm going to go with Levy. Oh, God. Godinez, McKinney, Kang, Shailan, and I want to call the Sam Hughes upset. I'm going to call the Sam Hughes upset.
There you go. Tajik with the dono. $4.99. Great show. Good luck this weekend, everybody. Good luck to you as well, Tajik. Shout out to Tajik for the dono there and hanging out with us. Sean saying, no way. She gets it beats Brady. There you go. Luke, how about you? Quick picks for this week.
Ketlen Vieira, Sean Brady, Kyung Kong, Taila Santos, Adrian Yanez, Pat Sabatini, Rafa Garcia, Lupita Godinez, Terrence McKinney, Cody Durden, Sean Soriano, and Luana Pinheiro.
Sounds good. And then AJ, quick picks for this week.
Tate, Brady, Kang, Santos, Yanez, Sabatini, Levy, Godinez, Zium, Durden, Soriano, Pinheiro.
Awesome. So, yeah, I think that is about it. Before we get out of here, guys, if you can please smash the like button. Also, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. You can check me out on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, on YouTube, DFS by the numbers as well. My full card breakdown prediction video is out already. I'll be getting more content out throughout the week. Weezy, let them know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week. I know you have just a tip tonight, right?
Yeah, that's right. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is Uncle Weezy. I do balls deep breakdowns of fights there, and I'll be going live at 10 p.m. Central tonight to break down all 12 fights from this UFC Vegas 43 card from a statistical perspective. Finish up with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And then we're also going to be here on Pub Sports Radio every Tuesday like we are tonight, and then every Sunday night with DFS by the numbers for stat diggers.
Sounds good. Luke, let them know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Yep. Twitter, SWR_betting. You guys can get my bets and content, patreon.com/SWR betting, Club and Sub podcast on Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern over on the Club and Sub channel. Myself and a roundtable of other gamblers breaking down these fights every single week from a betting perspective. And good luck, boys. Hopefully we have a better week than we did last week, or I should say myself. I got smoked last week, so thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers for sure. AJ, how about you? Let them know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Yeah, you're not alone on that, Luke. I got smoked too. AJMMAbetting.com website, Twitter at AJ_Shulo. Going to be pumping out content throughout the week. Got a UFC card this week, and we've got like 4 more cards until the end of the year. So yeah, we're getting on the home stretch here. Good luck to everybody in the chat. Weezy, Brady, Luke. Cheers, guys. Let's do this thing.
Yes, sir. Do you want to shout out some comments on the way out of here? This is always a great show. Love the format. Appreciate it. Sean, Devonta saying, don't sleep on Loma. Nathan saying, dope show. Aldo saying, great show, quick and easy. Marcel saying, great show, fellas. We appreciate you all. Jack saying, just a tip. Appreciate all the kind comments. Again, smash that like on your way out. We'll see you back next week on Tuesday, as always, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And good luck for UFC Vegas 43. Let's win some money this week.